The Galactic Council had grown complacent in their towers of crystalline spires, believing themselves the masters of a universe they barely understood. For 3 centuries, they had observed the strange bipedal creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, classifying them with clinical detachment as Terrans, or, more colloquially among the enlightened species, Deathworlders. It was Ambassador Zethkar of the Ethereal Collective who first coined the term during a particularly tedious council session. They come from a world of constant catastrophe, he had said, his translucent form shimmering with what passed for amusement among his kind. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, predators that hunt in packs. By all logic, intelligent life should never have evolved there, yet somehow these, Deathworlders, not only survived but thrived. The council chambers had rippled with harmonic laughter from dozens of species. The humans, as they called themselves, were treated as an amusing curiosity. Their requests for full membership were politely deferred, their trade proposals carefully limited, their territorial claims gently dismissed. They were kept at arm's length, like dangerous but fascinating specimens in a cosmic zoo. Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Diplomatic Corps had endured 17 years of such treatment. She had sat through countless sessions where human colonization rights were pending further review, where human technological contributions were deemed requiring additional safety protocols, where human cultural exchanges were labeled potentially disruptive to galactic harmony. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, Galactic Standard Time. The Zephyrian Empire had launched what they called a minor territorial adjustment into human space, claiming the agricultural world of New Manitoba was incorrectly catalogued and actually fell within their ancient hereditary boundaries. 3 million human colonists were given 72 hours to evacuate or face administrative relocation. When Captain Chen brought this to the Emergency Council session, the response was as predictable as it was infuriating. The Zephyrians are an elder race, intoned Councillor Vexthran, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Their territorial claims carry considerable historical weight. Perhaps the humans could consider alternative arrangements. You mean abandonment, Chen said quietly. Relocation, corrected Ambassador Zethkar. The collective has several suitable worlds in the Outer Rim. Less hostile than your typical preferences, but adequate for your species' unique requirements. The chamber fell silent as Captain Chen stood. For a moment, she looked around the great hall at the assembled representatives of 47 star-spanning civilizations. Beings of energy and crystal, hive minds that spanned solar systems, ancient races that had achieved transcendence before humanity had learned to make fire. You know what? She said, her voice carrying clearly in the perfect acoustics of the chamber. We're done. I beg your pardon. Councillor Vexthran's voice carried a note of confusion. We're done playing nice. Chen's smile was thin and cold. For 3 centuries, we've followed your rules, respected your protocols, deferred to your wisdom. We've been the polite newcomers, grateful for whatever scraps you've thrown our way. But you've made a fundamental error in your calculations. She began walking toward the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. You see us as lucky survivors, freaks of evolution who somehow crawled out of hell and learned to speak. But you've forgotten something important. We didn't just survive our world, we conquered it. And we didn't do it by being nice. The holographic displays around the chamber suddenly flickered and changed, showing not the pastoral scenes of human colonies the Council was accustomed to, but something else entirely. Fleet formations emerging from hyperspace. Massive industrial complexes hidden in asteroid belts. Weapons platforms that had been catalogued as research stations. For 3 centuries, you've assumed we were showing you everything. That we were as naive and transparent as we appeared. You classified us as Deathworlders and thought that was the end of the story. But there's something else you should know about evolution on Deathworlds. The displays showed human soldiers in powered armor moving through environments that would have killed most galactic species in seconds. Desert worlds where the sand itself was made of microscopic razors. Ice planets where the atmosphere was liquid nitrogen. Ocean worlds where the pressure at the bottom would crush starships. We don't just adapt to hostile environments. We become them. The Zephyrian representative, a being of living Mercury, had begun to lose cohesion. What are you saying? I'm saying that as of this moment, humanity is withdrawing from all galactic accords. The Terran Republic is assuming full sovereignty over our claimed territories, and we will defend them with whatever means we deem appropriate. The age of asking permission is over. Ambassador Zethkar's form brightened with what his species expressed as anger. You cannot threaten the Galactic Council. We have fleets, ancient weapons, powers beyond your. The obsidian doors of the War Council chamber groaned open with a sound like grinding bone. Beyond the threshold lay the heart of the Netherian Empire's military might, a circular chamber carved from black volcanic glass, its walls adorned with the banners of a dozen conquered worlds. At the center, a crescent-shaped table bore the weight of ancient stone, around which sat the most feared generals, admirals, and warlords in the known galaxy. They were not human. The Netherians towered above mortal men, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming purple-black in the chamber's ethereal light. Admiral Vexthanes, her mandibles clicking in irritation, paused mid-sentence as the doors swung wide. General Mordun's four arms ceased their gesticulation over the holographic battle plans. Even the ancient warlord Kremath, whose scarred carapace told stories of 1,000 victories, turned his compound eyes toward the interruption. What entered was not another Netherian officer bearing reports from the front lines. What entered was impossibly, inexplicably human. The figure was small by Netherian standards, barely reaching the chest height of the seated council members. Clad in battered combat armor that had once been military issue but now bore the scars of countless battles, the human moved with a predator's grace despite obvious exhaustion. Dried blood caked the armor's joints, and fresh wounds painted crimson lines across exposed skin. But it was what the human carried that turned the council's dismissive sneers into stunned silence. Gripped by its crown of writhing tentacles, held high like a grotesque trophy, was the severed head of Supreme Overlord Zarthol, the apex predator of the Netherian hierarchy, the living god who had crushed 17 star systems beneath his iron fist. The head's 6 eyes, each the size of a human skull, stared sightlessly ahead. The massive jaw, capable of biting a battleship in half, hung slack and lifeless. Dark ichor still dripped from the ragged neck stump, pattering against the polished floor in a steady rhythm that seemed to echo through the suddenly airless chamber. Impossible, whispered Admiral Vexthanes, her translator rendering her chittering speech into galactic standard. The Supreme Overlord was, invincible. The human's response came in a voice hoarse from battle cries and smoke, yet carrying an authority that made the assembled warlords lean forward despite themselves. Your god bleeds like any other. The words fell into the silence like stones into still water, each syllable rippling with implications. General Mordun's 4 hands moved instinctively toward his weapons, but something in the human's bearing gave him pause. This was not a creature driven by madness or desperation. This was a predator that had tasted victory and found it to its liking. You dare bring that blasphemy into our sacred council? Warlord Kremath's voice was a grinding rasp, filtered through vocal cords that had been damaged in the siege of Proxima Colony. You will be flayed alive for this sacrilege, little mammal. The human's laugh was sharp and bitter. Sacrilege? Your sacred Overlord is meat now, just like the billions of humans he ordered slaughtered. Another drop of ichor fell from the severed head. Just like he made my homeworld burn. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of clicking, buzzing, and mechanical translation. Orders were barked, threats issued, but none moved to act. The presence of Zarthol's head was paralyzing, not just physically, but conceptually. If their supreme overlord could fall to a single human, what did that say about their own invincibility? How? The question came from Admiral Vexthanes, cutting through the chaos. Her compound eyes fixed on the human with newfound respect, and fear. How did you breach the Nexus Fortress? How did you reach the throne chamber? The Supreme Overlord's personal guard numbered in the thousands. The human smile was predatory. Your fortress had a weakness you never considered. You built it to repel fleets, armies, and siege engines. You never thought to defend against a single determined soul with nothing left to lose. The human reached into a belt pouch and withdrew a small device, a simple detonator, its red light blinking steadily. I walked in through your front door, following a funeral procession for your fallen warriors. When you've seen enough of your people die, you learn to look like grief. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. They remembered that procession, the ceremony honoring those lost in the recent assault on the Terran remnant forces. Once inside, I activated the 47 fusion charges I'd smuggled in with the ceremonial offerings. Your Overlord's throne room has excellent acoustics. I could hear him screaming from 3 levels away as his precious fortress came down around him. In the chaos, in the dark, with his guards buried under rubble, he was just another frightened creature facing his executioner. The human hefted the severed head higher, letting more ichor splash onto the ancient stone. He begged, at the end. Called me, Merciful One, in 17 different languages as I carved through his hide with this. A simple combat knife appeared in the human's free hand, nothing remarkable, just sharpened steel that had tasted godling's blood. Warlord Krematha's scarred head tilted. What do you want, human? Surely you did not come here merely to gloat. I came to deliver a message. The human's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, yet every word carried clearly through the chamber. Withdraw from human space. All of it. Every world, every moon, every asteroid mining station. Pack up your armies and go home. The council erupted again, but the human continued, voice rising above their protests. You have 48 hours. After that, I start visiting the rest of your leadership. I have their addresses, their security protocols, their families' locations. Your God Emperor taught me much about fear before he died. Admiral Vexthanes leaned forward. You cannot threaten the entire Netherian Empire with. Can't I? The human held up a small data pad, its screen showing dozens of profile images, high-ranking Netherians, military and civilian alike. I've spent 3 years studying you, learning your weaknesses, mapping your power structure. Your Overlord was just the beginning. The silence that followed was absolute. In the space of 10 minutes, everything they had believed about human capabilities, about their own security, about the natural order of the galaxy, had been shattered as thoroughly as Zarthol's skull. General Mordun found his voice first. The Empire will not negotiate with terrorists. Then the Empire will learn to fear them. The human turned toward the door, still carrying their grisly trophy. 48 hours. Tell your remaining leadership, humanity is no longer prey. As the obsidian doors closed behind the lone figure, the War Council sat in stunned silence, staring at the dark stains on their ancient floor. Outside, across the galaxy, human resistance cells would soon receive a simple message: the hunt begins. The age of Netherian supremacy was ending, one severed head at a time.